I want to talk about the 2001 Japan Airlines mid-air incident. Oh my god, that's quite a title, isn't it?
Tell me why, Simon. Tell me why you want to talk about this.
Well, first of all, I need to preface this by saying that we've been on a little break. I don't know why.
Yeah, things have come up.
A million things have come up in my life on Mondays and have just screwed up my whole schedule. And so, to be fair...
Maybe we should do Tuesdays.
I don't know. No, because, well, we can soon. I don't know how much you can talk about your new job, but probably not yet, right?
Not yet.
Let's just skip over that I ever said that. We previously talked about a plane crash, right? Do you remember this one? It was like Aeroflot, where there was the pilot and he let his kids up in the cabin to pretend they were flying the plane, and they accidentally knocked off the autopilot.
And no one noticed.
And no one noticed, and they couldn't work out what was wrong. It was slightly more complicated than that, but they couldn't work out what was wrong, and just flipping the autopilot back on would have saved the day, but the plane crashed into the mountains and killed like 100-something people.
I know this sounds terrible. That should have been like a really easy fix.
Yeah, this is why I say, because I say it now, and I'm sure they tried turning the autopilot back on, right? I know, I don't want to, is Aeroflot...
belittle them.
Is Aeroflot even still around?
I don't know.
I think they are.
I've never been to Japan, so I honestly
It's Russian,
don't know.
dude.
Is it Russian?
Russian.
There you go.
Aeroflot. Aeroflot. That just makes it
like
Italian, doesn't it? Yeah, I don't know why I said it
Aeroflot.
like that. I feel a Russian accent is one of the few I can halfway do a Russian accent because I've seen many James Bond films.
Well, that's very good.
Yeah,
I like that accent.
Yes, get some vodka.
It always reminds me of Gru from Despicable Me.
It's January 2001.
Right.
And this is actually a good story because they don't crash, but it is wild. Flight 907 is rolling along. Happy days. Everything's going fine. It's a big Boeing 747. You have 427 people on board that plane.
Wow, that's a lot of people.
I knew those 747s are big planes, but that's a lot of people. Anyway, there's another flight, 958. I don't know if they say it like 958, probably 958, right?
Yeah, I would imagine
Aero
so.
terms. Flight 958 is also flying above Japan. It's a DC 1040. I have no idea what that is, but it's smaller, but there are still 250 people on board. And both of these planes, they're kind of coming out of Japan or coming out of Japan. They're both climbing to their cruising altitude. Airspace is being handled by, obviously, ATC, Air Traffic Control, and is a 26-year-old dude and his supervisor, so he's a bit new. And basically, at some point, he realizes, these planes are ascending on exactly the same path to exactly the same altitude, and they're going to have a bit of a whoopsie-daisy in the air. And he says, the two planes are going to crash. Tell 907, which is the Boeing 747, to descend. And so they do that. Now, both of these planes, and I didn't know they had this, they have something called collision avoidance, which automatically tracks where the other planes are, and then it'll do that cool voice, like, descend, descend, descend. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You see it in movies and stuff where it's like, pull up, pull up.
Oh, is that a real thing? Yeah.
Dude, totally a real thing.
Okay, all right, good.
And, so this starts basically telling them to start climbing, because they, for some reason, the ATC screwed up, and they're saying descend, but this traffic avoidance thing is saying ascend. And the problem is the plane gets the same warning as well, and the other plane gets the same warning as well, so they also decide. So imagine you've got these two planes coming in, and then one of them's, the ATC's telling them to go up, but then their descent thing tells them, I'm fucking confused already.
No, so what, the all right, hang on.
No, it's
two
simple.
planes.
Dude, just let me simplify it. There's two planes coming in, and basically they know they're going to collide.
They're both
and
told to go down.
Both of their automatic collision things tell them to go down. The problem is then they're both down.
They're still going down.
Yeah. And so ATC is supposed to be able to deal with this sort of problem. And so then the ATC tells the second plane, 958, to turn right, but that message is not received. And then the ATC supervisors tells the 957 to climb to solve the problem. So it's like, all right, just one of you's got to get out of the way. This doesn't seem like so much of a problem. And here's where the screw up happens. 957 doesn't exist. The planes we're talking about, 958 and 907. So he just screws that up. And basically, they end up seeing each other. So it's like the pilot's looking out the window. It's like, oh shit. And the 747 descends rapidly and just avoids hitting it. Bring up that video. Oh, Yeah. Oh, dude, right?
That's petrifying.
It's almost touching it.
That is scary. I don't like that.
You know what the distance in between those two planes is? 135 meters.
Yeah.
They are big planes.
Do you know, I once had a similar situation in the air, not quite as dramatic as this, but I remember seeing an aeroplane which looked really, really close fly under our wing.
Yeah.
And like realistically, it probably was 200 meters away, but it was close enough to go, oh, that's too close. Like,
Yeah.
Get away.
They fly, if you look out the window enough, like you see planes go by, and they can be really close.
Well, I was going to say, I actually reckon this probably happens more than you think. I like this sort of planes coming close, like approaching the same altitude at the same time on the same track. I reckon that happens more often than not.
I don't think they do. You know why?
Why is that?
Because I think in the aviation field, there's a great book called Black Box Thinking. And in the aviation field, they have like these really intense reporting standards. So I read the book a couple of years ago, so I'm probably going to screw up exactly what happens. But when someone makes an error, like if there's a pilot in the air and he makes an error, he can say, if he reports it within like 48 hours or something, then he gets, he's not going to pay, he's not going to be punished for it. Mm-hmm. So he comes forward and he says, this happened in the air. I screwed it up. I'm sorry. Here's what needs to be fixed. Here's why it's happened. Here's why it's happened. And then this encourages the whole aviation industry to fix the problems, which is why aviation safety has come along such a long way.
Okay.
And the Matthew Syed guy, the guy who wrote the book, is saying this should also be applied to other fields. Like he says, the medical field, especially in the past, has been terrible for this. If something goes wrong, it's always like, don't speak about it. Don't sue your doctor. Don't do any of this stuff. Just keep it quiet. It'll be fine. And it should improve medical outcomes.
Interesting.
If much more reporting is done in this kind of aviation style. Obviously, it's a bit more complicated and all of that, but it's a great book.
Yeah, lovely. Wow.
Just to kind of sum up on the Japan Airlines thing, no one got injured. A few people got injured. No one died.
Why did they get injured? What, because of
the hard descent?
Yeah.
The plane even got damaged.
What, did people get thrown in the air or something?
I guess they bumped their heads on some stuff or weren't wearing. Because I guess there wasn't any reason to be wearing a seatbelt.
No, exactly.
So they should be like, boom.
So I saw a video the other week about some really, really intense turbulence.
Yeah.
And the blooming lady with the trolley with the drinks flew and hit the ceiling. I was like, whoa, Jesus, that's hard.
Basically, in terms of like outcomes, they tried to work out what was wrong, and basically the solution they came up with is that the collision system should always take precedence over air traffic control, because eventually it will figure it out, and air traffic control is human and can screw it up. Mm-hmm. So now if air traffic control is telling you to do something and they're like, you must ascend 1,000 feet or whatever, and the collision avoidance system is like, ascend 2,000 feet, the computer takes priority over ATC.
Really? Interesting. Okay,
we trust our computers. The ATC trainee and supervisor went to prison.
Oh, that's
it's pretty harsh.
That is harsh. That's harsh. I mean, that was an error. If they had reported it within 48 hours, they should have been allowed off.
I think this was
by the logic of black box thinking.
I think it was before that. However, if this crash had happened, it would have been the deadliest aviation disaster in history.
Damn.